Very good afternoon, Zia, and our Millennium Mams from all across the globe. Zia, we are deeply honored and genuinely thrilled to have you with us today. Let me start by introducing our organization. Millennium Mams is a pioneering non-profit empowering women through financial literacy since 1993. Guided by our visionary mentors, Mr. Bishnu Dhanuka and Mr. Sanjay Bhuvania, the organization has touched the lives of over 15,000 women. Today, our presence spans across 65 cities in India and over 22 countries worldwide. Our curriculum builds financial literacy through the study of company financials, AGM participation, tracking global economic trends, factory visits, and interactions with expert speakers. Our investment philosophy is inspired by Mr. Warren Buffett. In 2019, we proudly represented India at the Berkshire Hathaway AGM in Omaha, USA, as the country's largest women investors group, a proud milestone in our journey. I would now like to introduce our esteemed speaker for the day, Ms. Zia Mody. Zia is the founder and managing partner of AZB Partners, one of India's most prestigious law firms. Zia holds a law degree from Cambridge University, an LLM from Harvard Law School, and is also a member of the New York State Bar. She began her career in New York before returning to India, and what she has built here has redefined. If you have read a headline about a major Indian deal in the last 2 decades, there is a very good chance that Zia or someone from AZB was in the room, including the HDFC Bank merger, which we Millennium Mams have been following closely. Zia has advised key stakeholders in the Godrej Group's landmark restructuring, a 4-year process that separated one of India's oldest 127-year-old business dynasty. Zia's influence goes far beyond transaction tables, and her abilities are recognized globally as reflected in her appointment with various trusts, councils, and organizations internationally and in India. Zia was appointed to the SEBI Committee on Corporate Governance, chaired by Mr. Uday Kotak, whose recommendations directly shape the rules that protect every shareholder in this meeting today. Zia, Millennium Ma'am welcomes you warmly, gratefully, and with great anticipation. The floor is yours as we eagerly await to hear your insights on our topic of the day. Justice delayed, justice denied. Can India fix its legal timelines? Over to you, Zia.
So I think that what Meghna is going to ask me a few questions, or you want me to do a free flow, or what do you want me to do?
Ma'am, if you could give us a keynote address and then we'll do the Q&A. Is that okay?
Sure.
Thank you, ma'am.
So I'll do a quick keynote address because I
Sure.
think that the questions are more important. So
Absolutely.
justice delayed is justice denied. That's the topic, right?
Yes.
So this is an old problem, often around the world, much more so in India. I think what we have is more of a concern because Indians tend to be more litigious than other countries. It is cheaper in most cases to litigate in India. We have an underrepresentation of judges, unfortunately, compared to other countries in the world. And the truth is that access to justice is, as far as women are concerned, I'm assuming that's the emphasis, is less available simply because there is more financial illiteracy amongst women by and large, and definitely and especially in the rural areas. So if you look at the village, for example, let's take that. Don't forget, we have 1.5 billion people, and so many of us live in villages and not in our tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities like this audience is. Those women really don't have a seat at the table because many of them simply don't earn. They are housewives, which bring a lot of value to the table. They cook, they clean, they look after their children, but they really don't have the monthly income. And therefore, the respect that they would otherwise get in the village from their men counterpart is lacking. With that comes the lack of financial education. Do I dare ask my husband what he earns? Do I dare ask for a monthly apart from what he gives me? These are all concerns that are terribly, terribly real. And so, where will these people even start getting access to justice, leave alone justice being delayed or denied? When it comes to the tier one, tier two, tier three cities, the problem doesn't go away, it just becomes a little less. The same issues exist. Do women really know or are aware of their financial rights? Do they understand how succession works? Do they dare ask their husband, can I see what's in your will, or am I part of the will? There is an HUF to which they have an entitlement. Do they know about that? Etc., etc., etc. So I think the guidance to the millennial moms is to definitely put down on a piece of paper what you do know, what you would like to know. Don't forget, this session is not to create friction amongst family, and it's very important that it doesn't. But more importantly, does your girl child, and are you going to give your girl child the awareness that she needs growing up and going forward in her awareness of what she's entitled to, and generally what she thinks she should be aware of, what you were never aware of, what she should be aware of. Now, don't forget, why is justice delayed in India? You have in a 2025 India Justice Report, we have 15 judges per million of our population in India. The recommendation of our law commission is you should have at least 50 per million, and we have 15 per million. The US has 150 judges per million, and Europe has 220 judges per million. And this is where the US population is 350, 375 million. We are 1.5 billion. And the UK, for example, has 70 million, and we are 1.5 billion. I keep repeating these numbers so that the audience understands the intensity and the graveness of the disproportionality of judges, and nothing brings it out more than statistics. So, are our judges really to blame? Personally, I don't think so. I think our judges, by and large, are terribly overworked. They do a great job in trying to go through as much as they can. Of course, sometimes constant adjournments don't help. But by and large, judges are struggling with multiple matters every day, with different topics, with different litigations, etc., etc. Now, the Supreme Court has tried to bring about some changes which are useful, which is if somebody applies for bail because he's in jail or she's in jail, then those are some things that have to be decided either on the same day or at least by the next day. So the person who's applied for jail should not be kept in jail for no reason. The next thing that the Supreme Court has put out is the way you can use AI to make your life easier. Digitization has become easier. Access to hearings through a virtual courtroom has become easier. All these are very important and valid steps that the Supreme Court has taken. And I think the result will show in time. But still, you can't get over the fact that the disproportionate number of cases versus the disproportionate number of lower judges is bound to continue until we reach a certain stage where district judges who climb up the ladder, direct appointments to the High Court, keeping the Supreme Court with a full roster, all that helps. In England, for example, in the Court of Appeals, you are given a specific time, 11:20 to 12:20. and both sides have to prepare to finish in that time. I'm giving an example. The court roster is so rigid, it does not allow for hours and hours of arguments, which sometimes could be repetitious. And then, after everything, the matter getting adjourned, and the judges naturally having to be refreshed on the next hearing. So that's the way I think we have our main problem about the delay. The next thing, of course, is sometimes there are, in India, the biggest litigant is the government. Over 60% of cases pending in the higher courts are by the government, either taking it to appeal or the other side, the private party, going against the government. Now, many of these cases, uh, or at least a good part of these cases, have already been decided by the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court has decided in one case, section so and so means so and so. Now, there may be 100 or 150 cases still pending in the High Court or in the Supreme Court where the same rationale is up for decision. There seems to be no reason why matters can't be disposed of based on what is already decided by the Supreme Court. Then you come to the lower officers, a customs officer, an income tax officer, um, a revenue officer of some kind, where in the matter which he is deciding, there is a Supreme Court case either in his favor or against him. If it is against him and he would have to pass a judgment in the favor of the private party, very often for reasons of just being nervous about being told that he is siding with the private party or being accused of favoritism, he simply passes an order which is negative and says, okay, let the courts decide it. That then adds to the backlog of the courts. So, really, what the government, in conjunction with the Supreme Court, should be doing is to give safe harbor to people who are faced with a finalized Supreme Court judgment and not to keep agitating and taking those same cases up the value chain so that the roster gets less clogged and gets a lot lesser. We have so many cases of great value pending in our Supreme Court, which lay down constitutional principles, which deal with life, liberty, and justice. Many of them have been landmark cases, but so many are still pending, and the country awaits their decision. You had the under trials decision, where you found that people were in jail for periods longer than the maximum sentence that could be imposed on them. That's just not right. And so, as we see digitization, AI, hopefully more judges, and the streamlining of the system, hopefully we will see that there will be less delay to justice, and therefore there will be less denial of justice. How hopeful am I? Uh, I would say 25 to 30%. The wheels of justice also move slowly. But what I think the government is very much alive to, and the Supreme Court is very much alive to, is this problem. They understand that this cannot be the state of a country that is going to be the third largest global economy in the world. This has to be one of the factors that weighs into making our economy robust. And put ourselves out to the world as a country that if somebody comes to get remedy, it gets it not after 10 years, but after 2 years, let's say. One of the major reforms that has come in is the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. That has been really a game changer, if you like. And that has helped clean up the banking system and has helped defaulting borrowers understand that they can't wait for 10 years and just sit down and do nothing when they owe the bank money. So, radical reforms like that, which have happened 5, 6 years ago, have actually resulted in caseloads diminishing, resolution plans being finished off, the banks getting paid, but we need more forums like this. We had Intellectual Property Appellate Tribunal that was only doing intellectual property cases. That got disbanded, and now everything is down with an overclogged National Company Law Tribunal. That tribunal is truly overworked. It deals with IBC cases, with oppression and mismanagement cases, with mergers and demergers, with reverse mergers, with all intellectual property, and so much and more, with very few benches, and even those benches are with very few judges. So I think it all boils down to a happy coalition of judicial strength, uh, frivolous litigations being taxed with costs. In India, you lose a litigation, you don't pay for the other side's cost. In other countries, you do. That also serves as a deterrent. If you just say, chalo, I'll file, we'll see what comes of it. That serves as a deterrent when you know that you could be paid, you could be asked to pay a significant amount more money for doing a frivolous litigation. These are some of the thoughts that I thought would inspire some questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mody, for the really thought-provoking and insightful address. We do have a whole lot of questions for you. I'll take the permission to start with the first one. So we wanted to know that, you have advised on some of India's most defining deals, from whether the Godrej family settlement to the HDFC merger. So in today's high-stakes boardrooms, what do you believe truly defines a great deal maker?
But is this in relation to family separations or generally?
Generally, both ways.
Okay.
We want to know
So,
everything from you.
so there are two different types. When it comes to a family settlement, right? That is not a boardroom discussion, really.
Right.
It is between family members of two sides, and very often that just has a lot of emotion built into the reason why it's not possible. But I think that for me, some of the most interesting matters I've done are these family separations, because ultimately you achieve peace and you are part of that peacemaking process. And I think there, what really matters is that the advisors on both sides have to be mature, have to be able to tell their own clients when they're asking for the moon that the moon is not coming, and try and navigate where everything may not be to each one's liking, but ultimately it's something where you can get on with each other's lives and at least re-establish relations as a family. Talk to each other, meet on occasions, not have to write nasty letters to each other. Advisors have to play an important part there. In the boardroom, I think deal making is where you, as a lawyer, are supposed to point out to the board the risks that the deal entails and give your honest assessment of the qualitative and quantitative nature of the risk. And why is that? Because the board may want to do a deal, and sometimes it's fine, no problem. Sometimes when it has a little bit of hair on it in terms of regulation, either under FEMA or under income tax or under, if it's insurance, the IRDA, then the board is looking for guidance as to how can we navigate to de-risk us further. Is this a go or a no-go, black or white? Most often it is shades of gray. And so we basically advise on where the problems could be, what could be the defense to those problems, or the problems are really not so traumatic that we can't do the deal. And if anything comes up later, it's defensible. Much more so in the case of listed companies, because there's a whole host of regulations to look at. So that's, I think, what the board looks at us for.
Thank you for sharing, Ms. Mody. I'd like to now invite Nidhi Jindal, a member from Dubai, for the next question. Nidhi, are you there? Nidhi Jindal from Dubai. Okay, we can now go to Neha Garodia from Calcutta.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Ma'am, my question is, as global businesses now become more geopolitical today, how do Indian advocates handle this new situation?
Are you talking about cross-border deals?
Yes, ma'am. Like now tariffs are affecting us. Now the geopolitics is affecting the businesses much more, like the Iran war, and like everything is become more geopolitical and businesses are being very much affected by it. So how are advocates handling this now?
So I think that this is a combination of advising both as Indian lawyers and frankly foreign lawyers as well, right? So if there's some Trump tariffs on us, right? How does that affect us apart from just financially? What can we do to navigate into other export markets, which would save us from the tariffs? Then there are what we call OFAC sanctions, which means that if by mistake you are manufacturing a product and one of the ingredients is, let's say, from Iran, which is sanctioned, and that goes into your product, and you're not even aware as business people that this is a problem, and then you export that product to America, it's a problem, right? The US can declare you as a sanctioned designated person. Banks won't deal with you. Your accounts will be frozen. So I think that all young businesses, the older, more mature businesses are already quite well versed in this. Every time you're doing something which you think could have exactly this geopolitical, extraneous, not known before impact, you need to reach out to your chartered accountants or your auditors or your lawyers and raise the issue. You see, they are not going to phone up Neha Garodia and say, "Hi, do you have an issue?" They don't know you have an issue. You have to anticipate that there is something in your manufacturing process. This is mainly for manufacturing. That basically, am I going to get into trouble? All the headlines are talking about tariffs, all the headlines are talking about sanctions. Can you guide me? This is what I'm doing. Am I protected? Do I need advice from you or somebody else? And then get your act in line. I'll give you one quick example. Two, three of our multinational clients were buying important material from an Indian manufacturer. Suddenly, one fine day, the Indian manufacturer found, to his absolute horror, that he had become a specially designated person because his product had some Iranian material. Okay, now we needed that material, right, as multinational clients sitting in India. We were buying it from India to India. But we, as Americans, could not buy because he was a designated person. Our banks, who were American banks, refused to let us pay him because they had no right to pay a designated person. He was not getting his money, so he had to pay his vendors to get his manufacturing done. He was going into trouble, so he filed an insolvency proceeding against our clients who wanted to pay him but couldn't pay him. And then ultimately, one had to go and get a waiver from the relevant authorities in the US to allow us to pay. So you see the unintended consequences that this can have. So I think awareness of where you can slip is very important.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That is beautifully explained.
Can we have Ekta from Delhi, please, for the next question? Ekta Jain. Ekta, are you there? Otherwise, Arpita, please come in with your question. Arpita? Unmute Arpita, please.
Sorry. Good
Yes.
afternoon, ma'am. Thank you for the insight on the underrepresentation of judges and comparing them with US and UK. So my question was actually around that. Do you think the interference from the government is delaying the appointment of judges in India? And how do you think this is affecting the independence of a judiciary system?
I'm not as negative as your question.
Okay.
I think that we have what we call a collegium in place, which has been set up by the Supreme Court, which basically recommends the judges which have to be elevated to the Supreme Court. And the government has a right to give its responses once and twice. And then after that, the Supreme Court can go ahead. So I think the independence of the selection of the judges, I think, is still in a safe place. I also think that it is really not the government's interference or fault as much as what I would like the government to do is to invest more in infrastructure for physical courts, which then gives the ability to increase the number of judges, which then gives the ability to hear more cases. So I think the government, if it can increase the physical infrastructure, the selection of judges at the highest level is by the collegium, and that's what we want at the highest level. Up the chain, there is also a process by which the government and the judiciary of the courts weigh in. So I think that really it's infrastructure which is the problem, according to me.
Thank you, ma'am.
Can we have Shalini Singhania for the next question, please?
Good afternoon, ma'am. Ma'am, thank you so much for such lovely insights that you shared with us. Ma'am, my maybe a silly question or maybe a simple question, ma'am, but I would like to ask, ma'am, do you believe India's biggest challenge is the shortage of laws or the delay in delivering justice, ma'am?
The latter.
The latter part. The delivering of justice is the
Yeah.
latter part.
In fact, we have too many laws.
We have too
And
many.
the government has taken good steps in actually now there's a lot of silly offenses which were earlier made criminal offenses. And the government has taken steps in various phases to decriminalize those offenses, which were petty and were there for 100 years and which no longer are relevant. And also then gives people the comfort, if they are foreigners, especially, that they're not going to have the theoretical possibility of being prosecuted for this nonsense. So that's a great step by the government. But I think otherwise, you have, too many forms, too many laws. I think the RBI has taken on a huge exercise to streamline the laws and to try to put it together. But all this takes time,
Right, ma'am. Right. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Can we have Shweta Sachdev for the next question, please?
Yeah. Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Shweta from Mumbai. Ma'am, you have noted that entry-level cohorts in the Indian law firms and other sectors like finance, we are seeing 50 to 60% of women in there. But the share drops as we move to the partner level. So what cultural or structural changes do you think will ensure women are equally represented at the top?
It's difficult. It remains difficult. It's getting better. What does this group of people who are women don't know what I know? We are multitasking, right? We are working. We are trying to rise up the ladder. We are having children at the same time. We have to sometimes live with our in-laws, which is sometimes happy, sometimes not so happy. Sometimes we have an ecosystem that supports us. Sometimes we moved from cities to be in a job where we are. So our only support is the nanny, the CCTV, and the neighbors. And then, of course, the constant capital G, guilt. All this, I think, causes a bigger dropout for women than men. What can we do as women leaders or women who can make decisions and change lives is to really anticipate problems that women at this stage would be facing. if you're not a very big organization, to have bespoke conversations. Is your travel too much? Are you really cutting your vegetables when you don't need to? Can you work with your ecosystem around you? Do you have a crash? We have a crash at AZB. Do you want to bring the baby in? Basic fundamental questions. If you're very large as an organization, in a very strong HR person who has been given authority from the top to have the ability to make decisions. So what did we do? So today we have about 35% of our women are partners, which is a good number. They've lasted the course, right? Do I wish it was more? Of course. Do we still see women get married and they have to move? The husbands don't have to move if it's to a different city. It's the culture. My husband's getting married, I have to move with him. Sorry, I'm getting married, I have to move with my husband. Or my husband's job is moving, I have to move with him. Not the other way around. I mean, how many times have we seen my husband's moving his job to be with me here? Much less. So our culture is such that it is the woman gives in more traditionally. Maybe it's around the world as well. This is not India specific. I think it may change in another 2 generations. Depends how strong-willed our women and daughters are. But I also don't think it is something which, you sit on your high horse and ruin a marriage. I don't think that you sacrifice happiness at a personal level. And so it's a bad balance. Indra Nui always used to say that our career clock and our body clock clash at the very same time. And that is the truth.
Thank you. This clarified everything.
Hope so.
Thank you
Yes,
so much.
absolutely, ma'am. And in fact, we've had Ms. Nui at our forum earlier and completely like she spoke the same way like you did. And I mean, it really resonated with all of us. Thank you for that, ma'am. Can we have Vaishali from Mumbai for the next question, please?
Yes. Good afternoon. You summed it up really well. We women do really actually multitask. But I would like to ask you that if you had the power to implement one judicial reform, what it would be and why?
Baba, more judges, more. I truly believe that will bring about reform. What do we need for judicial reform? What do we have to reform about our judges? Educate them, train them. There's a judicial academy which can bring them up to speed. How will a district court judge know about SEBI? How will he know about FEMA? He comes into the High Court. He's new. So to educate them through the Judicial Academy is one way. It's not a reform. The reform is really in hurrying up with the courts and hurrying up with the selection process. That's it. And also, as I said, if judgments and cases have already been decided, stop hearing them again and again. Just give cover to the people who can make the right decision and don't then start accusing them of corruption or something like that, because then they won't do their job.
So may I just ask you one more question? So pursuing to become a judge should be encouraged as a career, right? I mean, or it only comes after being a lawyer.
You can't. I think you have to be a lawyer to be a judge. But would I encourage youngsters or others to become judges? And it's really a service to the nation. It's not something that you do for the money. Judges are underpaid and overworked. So it's really a call to nation building. And all the judges, so many of the judges who have been appointed straight from the bench, from the bar, they would be making 1/100th of what they're making if they didn't move to the bench. So these are sacrifices.
Thank you.
And the numbers that you gave us, it really truly is the call of the hour. We really do need maximum judges possible. And before I invite one more member, I'd like to ask you that, ma'am, we have made required changes in our legal system, which were there in the British era, pre-independence. But do you still feel there's any law which may be continuing from the pre-independence era and hampering growth and social justice in today's times?
I don't think any law particularly hampers social justice. I think there are many archaic laws which are slowly being amended. So, you have a Contract Act of 1800, but it's working with a few amendments. You had an Indian Telegraph Act, which then got replaced, but it was also of the 1800s. I think the British left us with a great set of laws, actually. The English didn't have a Contract Act before we did. They gave it to us first, and then they had theirs later. I think what is important is when we do our legislative drafting today, the drafting of the legislation needs to be unambiguous and crisp. Otherwise, that itself leads to anomalies in interpretation. So the draftsmen who are actually changing a section have to look at where else it impacts the statute. If there is a reason why they are changing the statute, that has to come out properly in the statement of objects and reasons, so that when a judge is looking as to why the amendment took place, or a barrister is arguing why the amendment took place, the philosophical basis on which it happens is known to all. I think, where there are bad stories that come out and injustice, which is apparent, which our media is so quick in reporting, government reacts. It can't afford not to.
Absolutely. Thank you, ma'am. Can we have Prerna Sethia from Calcutta for the next question, please?
Good afternoon, ma'am. So truly said, ma'am, like drafting legislation, which is very and ambiguous, and it has one interpretation, is really the need of the hour. Ma'am, I would like to directly ask, right now with so many technological changes and AI in place, how do you see this legal system, remaining still very relevant to all these technological changes, and how it can help for faster justice, basically?
You can't replace the law with technology. Law is the law, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You can use AI to help you, but
Yes.
then you saw the recent article where the Supreme Court got upset with the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal, where in their judgment they had used AI and judgments which were cited did not exist.
Yes.
So it is a responsible use of AI, which is very critical. We are not at the stage where AI does not hallucinate. AI hallucinates. And if we don't recognize that, and we are lazy, basically, as lawyers, in what we have to do and how we have to validate, then, we're really not helping justice, right? What is in helping justice? How can AI or these tools help? It can put together a set of facts, provided you feed in the correct facts. You feed in the wrong facts, it will give you a set of wrong facts. You put in the wrong legal proposition, it will give you the wrong answer. So the human brain cannot be substituted at all, especially in litigation. And don't forget, litigation is not just citing 20 cases. Litigation is strategy. Litigation is looking at what the other side could be doing, trying to preempt a strategy that the other side can mount on you, having your defense ready. So how is that all replaceable? Can it do things quicker, provided you work it more responsibly? Yes, definitely. And we see our lawyers using that. But can it replace a human brain for what the client is looking for? That is difficult.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. This is what we were also expecting. So great, ma'am. Thank you.
Can we have Kunti for the next question, please?
Yes, Zia, you're so right about AI, because even here at Millennium Mams, we are always taught to use it, but not depend on it. It has to assist us, but we cannot be completely dependent on it.
I tell your brother that all the time.
Okay. My question is, ma'am, having seen India's legal system evolve from close quarters, which two landmark judgments do you believe have played the most significant role in shaping reforms in India, and why?
So obviously, even though now it's far away, but as you know, the Vishaka judgment, Kunti, was really, really important. It was the case that laid down, the Supreme Court laid down the principles for the prevention of sexual harassment. I think the Supreme Court just got fed up of the government not legislating and legislated. And under the Constitution, the Supreme Court is allowed to legislate. And that's exactly what it did. It laid down Vishaka, and following that, after several years, the POSH Act came into effect. But it didn't matter because Vishaka was law anyway. So I think that that was one clear reform that the Supreme Court did, which laid down a lot of change and affected a lot of organizations and helped a lot of women. There are others. There are the Olga Tellis judgment, where pavement dwellers were dealt with. There is the judgment on under trials, which I mentioned. There's also the judgments which have allowed and decided by the Supreme Court that the right to privacy is a fundamental right. It's a basic right, and your personal liberty is protected under that, under Article 21 of the Constitution. Now, of course, we're looking at the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, which is coming up. Phone tapping without consent is now not a good thing. So these are there's so many judgments where the Supreme Court has just enhanced the quality of the life of the nation. The problem is when it remains judgments. So if you look at the statistics and you look at the under trial judgment, then you go back to the jails and you see how many have actually been helped by the judgment. That mapping, I think, if the government does, and if there's a good mapping and good statistics that come out of that, the judgment, the government should proclaim it. I mean, these are achievements then. But if the same number of under trials continue, then it's a problem.
Right. That is it's something actually to think about and work on.
Yeah, and to get data. And who's going to be happy to give you the data? The guardians of the prison are not going to say that, we have the same amount of under trials. Pulling data is also pulling teeth sometimes, and it doesn't suit people. But if it is there such that we can say, look, the Supreme Court said this 15 years ago, the under trials were X amount. We are now 15 years later, and the under trials who have not exceeded their maximum sentence in jail have fallen by 50%. That is the achievement.
But can there be some sort of act to kind of bring this reform into?
There's no act. You can't say act to bring in data on gathering how much. I mean, it's a matter of each state giving data, which the Supreme Court can call for. But the Supreme Court has given this judgment. Now it has to be the government's role to implement the judgment. You see all the Environmental Protection Act judgments which have come out from the Supreme Court. You're protecting this animal, you're protecting that mangrove area, you're protecting this, you're protecting that. That's law. But now, Supreme Court can't come down from its bench to sit and enforce the law, right? And how much, poor things.
Thank you so much. It's definitely something to think about.
On a lighter note, just wanted to ask and know from you, how do you manage everything? How do you keep sane through all the work meetings and then your family commitments and everything? So what is the secret sauce do you do? Is it meditation, religion, exercise, music? What is it, ma'am?
It should be a lot more than I do. I have no secret sauce. I work long hours. I sleep little. But I'm a Baha'i by religion. So, daily a bit of meditation and a little bit of prayer always helps through the day. Exercise is very important. I stopped 2 years ago, much to my irritation, because I used to do a nice 45-minute workout, which kept me got my adrenaline going. So my New Year wish every time is I will start, I will start, I will start. But to all of you here, I would say exercise. It just gives a lot of release of many unintended toxins in the body. But I think more importantly is to understand what you want from life and how your priorities flow, and not to end up having priorities which in the mid or long term will make you unhappy. Okay. So I'm a great believer in having children. So many of my partners don't want children. Many of my partners don't want to get married. So this is a mindset which is there for some, not there for some. I am 70 years old, so I'm very traditional in my ways. But life choices are important. And clashing too much with the natural order of things, with just saying, I have to be CEO, I have to be CEO, it's not going to make you happy. Because if you're unhappy lonely, if you're unhappy divorced, if you're unhappy childless, if you're unhappy motherless, I mean, are you happy? That's the call that you have to make. And is there a perfect life balance? The answer is no. There is no perfect life balance. And it's okay. And, my children are now grown up, my 3 daughters. And I used to go for the PTAs and to meet with the teachers, but I didn't go to a lot of the parties that the other mothers went to. And I think they missed that, maybe resented that. But now they are 40 and they have children of their own. And now I get messages on WhatsApp from my daughters saying, now we understand, because they are in the same place, right? Now they have their careers, they have to balance it with their young children. So the circle of life you learn. But don't. So what's the magic sauce? The magic sauce is don't give away your capabilities. Um, don't sacrifice beyond a point, but don't sacrifice too much of one side of your life to make you ultimately not at peace with yourself or fundamentally unhappy.
That was beautifully expressed. Thank you so much. It really is what I think I really needed to hear. All of us needed to hear. Thank you so much. I'd like to invite Shweta Singhal with the next question, please.
I'm getting a lot of hearts, so people must be relating to this.
Absolutely.
After this, I am speechless. Like I am in that moment only, what you just said. But I'll just go on with my question. The judiciary process are complicated and outdated. Shouldn't the judiciary bring in simple process like the new Income Tax Act? For example, Modi ji reduced the concept of notarization and relied on self-certification. Your thought on that?
Can't be a bad thing, right, Shweta? The more you reduce, the better off you are. But I think the main thing is the proceedings themselves. So again, if you go back to data, and I don't know the numbers, so how many assessments from income tax in a year are opened, challenged, taken for years to resolve? How many are really unnecessary? How many are just because the officer has a duty to do as many cases as X or Y? I think that is where the government has to come in and say, if we really want to trust our citizens, right, give them a chance. I know for me personally, when I file my tax returns, my chartered accountant is under orders which are pain of death to not take any deductions, not one deduction. So if I have no deductions, I'm at peace. What'll I do? I'll pay a little more tax, but to hell with it. I'd rather do that than sit and explain why did I take this deduction? Why did I? But that's me, because I just don't want any this sort of irritation in my life. But why do I not want it when I could have claimed honest deductions? Because I'm just worried that I'll have to spend more brain damage time trying to defend something. And that is where our government has to be a little more trusting. Will everybody be great? And no, we will have many people who will try and game the system, get a little bit here, but in the larger scale of things, I think we need to go for the big frauds. We need to, and that our department is superb at getting with all the algorithms and all the AI that you're talking about. When you punish and publicize and make an example of the right bad guys, it has a chilling effect on many people who would say, Karna, nahi karna, there's choro, right? And that's the DNA the government has to inculcate. That, be a proper citizen, do what is right, claim what you're allowed to, don't mess with us, give us our share of the revenue. And I think the main problem I have is that the taxes collected have to really result in more social infrastructure for our people. There has to be more public hospitals which are well manned, more public schools which are got good teachers. That is when you uplift the economy and the nation. So I think we have to be trusting as a government, spend judicially on our social and welfare infrastructure. And I think we will respond as citizens. I mean, look at your group, for example. Why wouldn't you want to do the right thing? I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can we have Ashka Bhansali for the next question, please?
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, having seen the legal profession evolve over decades, how do young lawyers today view justice differently?
I think they would like to see a more activist judicial system. But I also think they are lazier than the earlier generations to fight for it. So it's easy to criticize, but then are you willing to give 6 months of your life to pursue the remedy to get there? In the 70s and the 80s, we had public interest litigations where the most senior barristers fought for free for months, right? During the emergency, you had all the senior barristers fighting for freedom and liberty. You don't get that today, right? So I always say that wanting is one thing, theory is one thing, commitment of time is another. Supreme
Yes,
Court
ma'am.
is open, or Supreme Court is always open to hear a grievance which is valid. But to get there, you have to fight your way up.
Very true, ma'am. Yes. Thank you, ma'am.
We'll take one last question. Can we have Rashmi Jhabbar from Calcutta, please?
Good afternoon, Zia ma'am. I've been just as admiring you, the way you've been explaining everything to us. Thank you so much. Ma'am, my question is, what legal reform would most improve India's investment climate and define the next decade of corporate law in India?
I'm not sure there's one, but I think that where the government could help is, what bothers foreign investors the most? Uncertainty. All right, they put in their money, it's based on a particular set of laws at that time, and then the law changes on them.
Yes,
and so their entire business proposition changes, their return to their investor changes. Don't forget our depreciating rupee, which has already caused concern. And so I think certainty of taxation and certainty of investment laws is a must. I think that our Reserve Bank of India has done a great job in not being shy about what is okay and what is not okay.
Yes.
And frankly, if something is not okay, it's not okay, right? If you want to, not tell a foreign investor that you can't come and set up a defense factory without our permission. I mean, I see nothing wrong with that, right? If you want security when you have airport related ecosystems, I see nothing wrong with that. And that is a government call, government philosophy, and that is enforced by the Reserve Bank when it comes to foreign investment. I think in the taxation sphere, we sometimes have government legislation and sometimes Supreme Court judgments, which basically create a sense of slight panic and uncertainty in the mind of the foreign investor.
Okay.
And the government should try and do as much as it can to alleviate that, because ultimately, as a country, we want foreign direct investment.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
want India to be looked at as the best destination in emerging markets. We
True.
want, as the Prime Minister says, make in India, Bharat Viksit, give our people employment, give our people skilled training, get into semiconductors, get into AI, all the places where we have lagged behind traditionally.
Yes, ma'am.
The present government is very much incentivized to take it up, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's what I think we need to do. Clarity, certainty, and sufficient consultation. I think many people think India is a great place from abroad.
Absolutely.
1.5 billion people, a consumer that is fast growing, a consumer that is aspirational, a consumer who has access to the world through his mobile. So, all these are really good things for any investor. They just don't want to be told 10 years later they got it wrong.
They got it. True. Absolutely. So beautifully explained. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mody, for such an engaging and enlightening session. And it has truly been a privilege for all of us here to hear from India's most distinguished legal minds. And I wish we could go on and on, but we really value your time. So I would now like to invite Shalini Duggar, President of our Dubai chapter, to deliver the vote of thanks. Can we have you, please, Shalini?
So before we do that, I understand
Yes.
one of my partner's wives is also on this session, Preeti Shroff. Is she there? Is she part of this?
Yes,
Preeti,
ma'am,
are you there?
very much here, ma'am. How are
Oh,
you,
good.
ma'am? It was a privilege to listen to you on this platform.
Well, I love your husband, so I thought I'll call you out specially.
Cheers to you. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Global, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to Ms. Zia Mody for sharing her invaluable insights on a topic that is both timely and significant. Your perspective on India's legal system, the challenges of judicial delays, and the path towards meaningful reform have given us much to reflect upon. A key takeaway: prioritizing your peace is one of the most important investments you can make in yourself. Thank you for your generosity in sharing your experience and wisdom, and for inspiring such an engaging discussion. I would also like to thank all our participants for joining us and contributing with your interest and thoughtful questions. A huge thank you to both our mentors for their consistent motivation and for providing us this unique platform. With that, we conclude today's session. We look forward to welcoming you again at another Global event. Thank you and have a wonderful day.